this is Heather Sides with Stampin' Up. I'm an independent demonstrator in Spokane, Washington, and I'm just kind of getting the camera ready and waiting for it to show up on my screen so that I can see everybody's comments as you come in. So let's see, it looks like I'm set up, and you like that nice mess behind me? It started out as one particular event that created this bit of chaos behind me, and as soon as I got that cleaned up, another event came along, and it just seems to be the way I do things now. That space behind me, I fear, is forever doomed to be a big giant mess in my background. Okay, let's see here. So who's joining us tonight? Tell me where you're from. Say hello. If you are joining us for the first time, I'd love to hear that. So let me go ahead and let's see if I have anything exciting to tell you about this week. Well, my car is going to be the death of me, the early death of me. The seal is going out around the windshield, which means every time there's any moisture in the air, I end up with a puddle on the floor of my car. So that's really nice. I got in my car the other day, and literally there was about 2 inches of water in the footwell. So yeah, that wasn't good. So I've been calling around trying to find window places that can redo the seal, and most of them want to convince me that I need an entirely new windshield. So then we're looking at like $600. My windshield's fine. It doesn't even have any cracks in it. So, that's just me venting. But yeah, that kind of has consumed a lot of my week so far, trying to get that all sorted out and, trying to get the mildew all cleaned out of my car from all that moisture and, fun adulting stuff like that. So, I do have a few things I want to tell you about, little housekeeping, before we get going on our cards. I have 3 great cards for you today. A couple of them are a little more time consuming than normal, so I've done a lot of the prep work ahead of time instead of doing it on screen, just to save us a little bit of time. So let's go ahead and get this camera turned around and get started. All right, now we just got to get everything lined up properly and we're good to go. Does that look good to everyone? Everything's kind of crooked a little bit, but okay. All right, so the first thing I want to talk to you about is our seasonal sale that we have going on. This is a really amazing sale. It is only going on through tomorrow. So today is the 17th of November, just in case you're watching this on the replay later. Hey, Brandy. Hey, Kathy. Hey, Talina. Good to see you all here. Oh, Eric's back. Did Eric go get dinner already, Talina? Eric was going to go get dinner for them. She said she was going to send him out, but it looks like he's back already. Eric, did you go get me something for dinner? I want some dinner too. Anyway, okay, so this great seasonal sale, it runs through the 18th of November, and it's pretty small font. Maybe if I raise this up a little, you'll be able to see it a little better. But through tomorrow, our cardstock is 10% off, our ink pads are 15% off, and all of our dies are 20% off. Now, there are a few caveats there. For example, the ink pads, this only applies to Stampin' Up! Ink pads, not the pads that we carry for other companies, like our Versamark pads and our Stays On and Memento. Just the ones that, basically the ones that look like what you see in the picture there. And then as far as the dies go, it's only... this whole thing is only products that are in our current annual catalog. So, the stuff that you see that you like in the July through December mini catalog, those are not on sale. Now, this amazing deal pairs really nicely with another deal we have going on right now. This is our Start with Savings starter kit, and whether you want to be a full-fledged demonstrator and do what I do, or just be a discount shopper and never sell a product a day in your life and just get the discount on the products, or somewhere in between. All of those are good options, and you can choose to do whatever you like to do. You can try it one way, and if you decide you don't like that, try it the other way. It's all up to you. But our kit is normally $99. It is currently $75. You still get $125 worth of products of your choice. You still get a free paper pumpkin kit. You still get free shipping. You still get 20% or more on all of your future orders. So this by itself is an amazing deal, and this is going on through the month of November. Hey, Robin. But when you couple it with this seasonal sale, it's even better, because you can get some of these things you might buy in your kit, you can get them at a discount and then be able to get more in your kit. So that makes sense. For example, if there's some ink pads you want to stock up on, you add them to your kit, they have a cost of less than their normal cost, and therefore you can end up getting more of them to get up to that $125 worth of products of your choice. So to sign up on my team this month at all is a great deal. Plus you get me. I mean, what more could you want there? But if you do it by tomorrow night at 11 p.m. Pacific time, because we go by Stampin' Up! Time, which is Mountain Time, so midnight Mountain Time. You do it by midnight tomorrow Mountain Time. You can pair these two deals together, and it's a great way to kick it all off. So if you have questions about that, or want some more information, I would be happy to talk to you about it. Just send me a DM, send me a message, an email, whatever works for you. I would love to help you decide if this is a good fit for you. And I think it's a good fit for everybody. Also, our next paper pumpkin kit, the one for December, is coming out, and I'm dying. This is so me. I mean, like, look at that banana with the glasses. How can you resist a banana with glasses? Really? The set is, they're saying lots of pun, and it's all sorts of puns, which I would have made a great dad, because dad jokes are like my thing. So I'm so looking forward to this whole kit. The puns and the cute little fruits in their eyewear. I can't handle it. It's just too cute. So you have until December 10th to sign up for this paper pumpkin kit. If you got this month's kit, or even if you just want to see some new ideas with this month's kit, I think I'm getting mine tomorrow. If I get it tomorrow, then I will be going live on Saturday with my monthly alternative ideas for the paper pumpkin kit. So watch for updates on this Facebook page, or on my YouTube page. I'm not sorry, my YouTube, but my Instagram page. Both of those I will be giving an update of whether or not I got my paper pumpkin, and if there will be a live video on Saturday. If not, then it'll be the following Saturday after Thanksgiving. Which does remind me, hey Tammy, nice. I'm glad that you could join us. Next Wednesday is the day before Thanksgiving. I will still be doing my normal live that evening. I know a lot of people are busy that night getting ready for the next day, but a lot of people too kind of need a little break at that point on Wednesday night. So if you miss it, just remember it'll be archived here on my Facebook page, but I also upload the video to YouTube right afterward. So there will be opportunities to watch it on the replay if you aren't able to make it on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So I think that's all I've got to share as far as housekeeping goes. So why don't we get going on our cards? Tonight, usually I give you envelopes to do. I show you envelopes with them. But someone, and I won't name names, but someone forgot to order me more white envelopes. So I only have one envelope today. but I'll give you some ideas of what I would have done if I had had some white envelopes. So let's see here. What have I got for you tonight? So the first one, my cards are kind of out of order in my box, so I had to resort things. The first card uses the whimsical, I think it's Whimsy and Wonder Sweet is what they called. Oh no, you fired me, Tammy? No, because I forgot to order my envelopes. I did finally get some ordered. They're just not here yet. So can I have my job back? You know, I need an assistant, period. Between juggling this and my full-time regular job, I do need an assistant. I don't know though that my husband's up for the task though. Okay, so anyway, this first card uses the Whimsy and Wonder set or suite. This is my favorite of all of our Christmas suites, and not just because it's pink, though that does carry a lot of weight. I am using the Whimsical Trees. I'm going to use this little stamp here, the one that says Let Your Heart Be Light. And then I'm also using the dies. This is a great set of dies too, because you get, see how many you get in this set? That there's a lot you can do with it. But tonight we're going to use these two smaller trees. So let's get going on that. The first card that we're going to do, I used one of our note cards. I love our note cards, and every time I use them, I love them that much more. The fact that there's so much, I mean, they don't seem like they're really that much smaller when you look at them. You don't think, wow, that's a tiny little card. But when you go to make the card, there's so much less space to work with. It's really easy to create something that's very simple and quick and still have a little bit of a wow factor to it. So this is one that I made. I didn't do anything with the inside, though I should have. I could have taken some of the blue DSP that I have in the background here and put a little stripe along the bottom, and I probably should have done that. I don't know why I didn't think about it. I always do the insides of my cards. Anyway, that being said, let's go ahead and get going here. So first I have one of our note cards. In case you need to know the measurements of it, they are 3.5 by 5 inches. They come pre-cut and pre-scored. So all you have to do is fold them and maybe even take your bone folder to get that crisp edge. But they're really nice and convenient. And that's another reason why they're so nice to work with, because they're already cut and scored and that's already taken care of. I've got my envelope and a set. You get a set of 20 of these for like $7.50 or $7. I think I figured out that I think I figured out they end up being like 37 cents per set or something like that. It's a really great deal. Then I have a piece of the DSP. This is also from the Whimsy and Wonder suite, and I just love this. It's got the stars and the trees, and this piece right here is for our envelope, the only envelope we'll be doing. I also have two pieces of cardstock or DSP and cardstock in our basic white that they're slightly longer. They're slightly more than 5 inches because I knew I was going to be trimming them a little anyway, so it didn't matter. But we're going to do a little bit of tearing on these to make our cards the way we want them. So let's see here. Oh, I have one more piece. Another piece of the white, and we're going to be doing a little layering, so you'll see where that's coming from. I have a piece of our silver trim, and you know, when our trim comes, it holds its shape really well. So what happens is it comes kind of in a curly pattern from the roll, but that makes it harder to tie. So if you just take your bone folder and kind of go like this in the beginning, it straightens it out a little bit. It does make it a little easier to tie. I do know people who also, what they do is put a paper towel over it and iron it very lightly, and that takes all the kinks out of it as well. But do put a paper towel over it because it will melt if you don't. I have a little tiny strip, just a scrap of Whisper White for our sentiment. And then you can see I cut out a whole bunch of these trees. There are tall, skinny ones, and there are some that are not quite as tall, but they're a little bit bigger tree. You can see there. And I think I did 6 of the littler trees and 4 of the bigger trees. And we're going to place those all over our card too. So let's get started on that. We'll do our envelope first. Where did my glue go? There it is. It fell over. Okay. So just going to put a little bit of glue here on the flap of the envelope. My adhesive of choice, if you've been watching me, you know that mostly I like to use the Stampin' Seal Plus, but I do prefer to use the glue, the liquid glue for my envelope flaps, just because, okay, first we gotta make sure this paper is going the right direction. I don't want my trees to be upside down. Anyway, I do use the liquid glue on the flaps just because it takes a minute or two for it to really set into place. So if I don't put my flap in quite the right spot, I can still lift it up and move it. It's a little more forgiving in that respect than the other adhesives are. So now I'm just going to go ahead and trim off the excess here. Okay. And you know what, if you cut off a little bit of your envelope at the same time there, because you just get a little too close to the edge, that's not a big deal. I do it all the time. Okay, so, oh, that's kind of wonky there. Hang on, let me just straighten that out a little bit. Doo-dee-doo. Okay, now let's get started on layering this card. I'll turn off my heater. Okay, so we've got the card base right here. We're not going to actually stick anything to the card base until we have it almost completely done, just because if you make a mistake, you want to have as much opportunity to redo that piece without having to redo the whole card. So we'll wait to adhere everything. So I have this little piece that is actually 3 1/4 by 4 3/4, and this will be kind of our little back or foreground piece on our note card. We're going to pop it up a little though with some adhesive foam so it'll stand out even though it's the same color. Now, the next thing we're going to do is take a piece of the DSP, and like I said, I love this blue one. I love this color. And we're going to tear the edge a little bit. The best thing to do is keep your thumb right there and tear it against your thumb, because then you can kind of control where the tear takes place. So it still looks torn and somewhat random, but you've got kind of a consistent look to it, I guess is the best way I can say that. So now let's go ahead and stick that down. My adhesive is, this one is just about dead, so I have an extra to call in as reserve as soon as this one dies on me tonight. Anybody else do that? You get your other one prepared in advance? Hey Teresa, how are you tonight? Okay. I'm going to stick this onto this little white piece here, and I'm just lining it up to the edge. It's basically the same size. Do be careful because this adhesive is not super forgiving. Once you lay it down, it kind of wants to stay put, whether you want it to or not. And as I say that, I have to lift it up. So you can kind of see I'm having to lift it fairly gingerly so that I don't tear up my card. This is the kind of thing I was talking about, why you don't want to mount it to the note card itself until you are absolutely ready. It's still crooked. Oh, this is going to bug me. Is this the way our night's going to go? Okay, you guys know what to do. You got to show it who's boss. Okay. Okay, we got it. We got it. Now I'm going to go ahead and trim that extra there. Next, we're going to take the white piece and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to tear it, get a controlled tear there. And I'm going to mount it on the bottom as well. You know what? I want it a little bit more torn, I think. I mean, a little bit narrower, just because I want a little bit more blue showing. And let's go ahead and stick that on there. Okay, just get it to match up great with that corner. It's probably going to go over the edge on the other side, which is just fine because we're just going to trim it, not a problem. There we go. And we have the main front part of our card. Now, you know, I really spent some time figuring out where I wanted my trees and how I wanted them. And, you know, there is no particular rhyme nor reason to how these need to go. So what I did is I laid them out and said, yeah, this is kind of the pattern I like. I don't want to take up a bunch of your time tonight reinventing the wheel. So what I'm going to do is I'm pretty much just going to copy what I did before. Some of these I did trim the little tree trunks just because I wanted them to appear a little bit lower on this blue. So let's see here. What have I got going on? I want to put a big tree. Oh, come on, you. Right about there. Okay. And I'm just using glue dots on these when I'm putting them in place. Some of them you may want to go back later and put like a second glue dot just like at the tip of the tree to make sure that it stays a little bit better. Because if you only have one glue dot, sometimes they get a little tipsy and they turn and they don't stay exactly where you put them. So show it who's boss and give it 2 glue dots if that's what you need to do. And let's see, another little one. Oh, I almost put that on backwards. Wouldn't have been, you know, too much of a crisis, but it's not what I wanted to do. Okay. I'm going to trim off this tree, I think, because I want it to be a little bit shorter. Trying to do this quickly so that you guys get the idea of what needs to be done, but you're not asleep by the time I'm done doing it. Okay, big tree. Okay, I seem to be, oh, I thought I was missing some trees. They were on the card. The glue dots are great for little things like this. You could use your liquid glue too, but sometimes the liquid glue ends up oozing out the sides. And like I said, the glue dots are just nice and easy. There, we'll do that. Let's put a little tiny skinny guy on this end. Okay. So does anybody have any big plans for Thanksgiving next week? I am hoping my son will be here by then. Some of you may have, if you watched me a few weeks ago, I announced that my son is moving over here from Seattle and he's going to be staying with us for a little while he just kind of gets his life back together. So I'm excited to have him with us. Eating too much food. Robin says she's going to eat too much food. Yeah, I think you're probably in good company on that one. Except, you know, my family's still kind of trying to decide what they want to do because not everybody is vaccinated, and I don't want to get into opinions here, but, you know, everybody has their opinion about that and whether or not they feel safe being around people who are not vaccinated. And so it just makes it kind of not very friendly in some cases. So I don't know if we're even going to be getting together or not. My husband works during the day. So I'm not quite sure what's going to happen with us. Last year, I made a full Thanksgiving dinner for my husband at work, because he worked last year too. So I made a full Thanksgiving dinner and took it into his work for all the guys, and thought about doing that this year. But you know, I have just been on the go so much the last several weeks that I kind of think I'm going to have a day to just do nothing. Brandy, does your daughter live with you guys? Or does she just come home to visit? Brandy's daughter is turning 21 this weekend. You know, everybody says congratulations to the person having the birthday. You know, oh, happy birthday. I honestly think that it's the parents that should be congratulated for both surviving and allowing the child to survive that long. But maybe I'm projecting. Okay. Get a couple more trees on here and we're good. So she lives with you and it'll just be the three of you. Do you have family that live near you? See, I'm just being nosy. This is what happens when you talk to me. Oh, Robin, that's too bad that you don't feel safe around anyone. But that does make sense. If you're diabetic and your older mom is also diabetic, you know, you gotta look out for yourselves. My mom, it was really sad earlier on in the whole COVID thing. My mom was so afraid that she was going to get it and die. I mean, she wasn't even just like, oh, I'm afraid I'll get it. She was convinced if I get it, I'll die, because she does have several health issues. She is a high risk person, but it was just so sad that she was so afraid of this. I mean, she was so worried about it happening, and it was very sad to watch. Okay, so now we have our trees on there. We can go ahead and let's stamp our sentiment. Actually, you know, let's go ahead and put this on the card. We can put this on the card at this point because we know it's ready. I have a little tree or trunk sticking out. I'll show it who's boss. Okay, so you know that I like to use my adhesive sheets whenever I can. So what I have done is, this is about a half of one of our sheets. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim off a few pieces here. And that's probably more than I really need to use. But we've discussed this. Doing things in excess is what I do. Oh, that's too bad, Robin. I'm sorry that you were so frightened by that. Do you feel better now? I mean, it sounds like you still worry about it, but do you feel better than you did? I hope you do. Good, I'm glad to hear that. Oh, that's right, Brandy, you've got to be careful too. Okay, you know, I've just been really lucky. My husband and I are both fairly healthy people, and you know, I kind of forget how it affects people who have more to worry about than what I have. Okay, so now we have the tree, that piece right on there. Let's go ahead and do our sentiment. I have used this particular sentiment a lot. You may have noticed that, but I really like it. It's, you know, it's just kind of sweet and fun, and it's small, so it's not, you know, entirely intrusive on a card. Okay, so it's Let Your Heart Be Light, and I am using the Misty Moonlight ink. Okay, let's see here. Remember, you always want to stamp once. See, if I hadn't stamped first, I would not have even noticed I had my stamp upside down. So you always want to stamp once just to make sure you've got everything you need to about your stamp. Maybe sometimes it has like a little fuzzy on it that impacts the image. Oh, poop. I don't like how that came off the edge. So we're going to fix that. Smush down these edges on this back side so we can use this side over again. Make sure I have my stamp right side up. Okay. Listen here, paper. Oh, I still came down to the bottom there like that, but we'll leave it. It'll be fine. It's better than the first one. Okay, close up the ink pad. And I'm going to put some dimensionals on this. I'm going to use the mini dimensionals just because it is such a narrow little strip. Again, if it's worth doing in excess, so I put a lot on there. Oh, poop. Gosh, I'm out of control tonight, you guys. I didn't trim this down first. Fortunately, I hadn't pushed those on real hard yet, so it's easy to trim it off, but... Okay, so all I'm doing here is I'm doing just a little bit of a diagonal cut. There we go. I really don't like that piece, but I can go in and fix it later. Okay, now let's try putting the dimensionals on. Oops. That's right, Talina says it's handmade. You know, when I was in college, I did a speech, and I talked about how the Liberty Bell is most known for the fact that it has a crack in it. And, you know, there's a billion bells out there in the world, but that crack, though it's a flaw, is what makes the Liberty Bell special. Everybody knows that it's got that crack and still works, and so I really do truly believe that in spite of our cracks and flaws, sometimes those cracks and flaws are what make us special. Okay, so now I'm going to take a little bit of that silver twine, silver trim is what it's called, and I've said this before, I'll say it again. I have found that for me, one of the things that has really contributed to helping me tie bows is making sure that I have enough thread or twine or whatever it is. So you end up wasting a little bit that way, but you end up saving yourself a lot of frustration when you've got enough ribbon or twine or whatever to work with. So keep that in mind when you're making your bows. That's a little bigger than what I want, so I'm just going to pull the tails on it a little bit. Okay, now let's trim them down. And we're going to stick it on there with a glue dot. The glue dot, this is another great way to use them when you're adhering bows. Tammy today in her video did something that I love to do, which was a faux bow, which really, Tammy, it's not a faux bow. The bow itself was a regular bow, but rather than tying it all the way around the card, what she did is she taped her ribbon around to the back of the card. That made it nice and tight. Then she made her bow separately and then just glued it on, and then it looks like she tied the ribbon around the card, which was the look she was going for without the frustration. Okay, now let's put some rhinestones on there because, well, why wouldn't we? And because it'll give us the appearance of maybe some little stars shining in the night. I feel like, I don't know why, that just made me want to burst into a Barry Manilow song. Okay, so I use my Take Your Pick tool for putting my rhinestones on. I always do this. I shouldn't say always, but I would say 99.9% of the time I do this because it just makes it so easy versus trying to pick up these tiny little pieces with big clodhopper hands. Let's see here. There. So there's our card. We've got our trees and our little sparkling stars in the sky. And what do you guys think of that one? That goes with our envelope. It makes a nice little Christmas card for somebody. But you know what? You could also make this a thank you card for after Christmas. It could be a birthday card. I mean, it's really more wintry than Christmassy. So you could use it for lots of different things. Oh, I see hearts and I love it. Thank you guys. That also reminds me, if you like what you see tonight, please share this video. You know, that's how I get exposed to more people. And okay, I'm not mature enough for this. I really am not. Every time I talk about exposing myself, I think of something entirely different. And I'm just going to have to go with it and learn to be mature. But come on, it's funny. Anyway, getting my videos out there to more people. You never know who on your lists might be interested in stamping, or they might know someone who's interested and they might forward it along and say, oh, so-and-so, you've got to see this. So I would really appreciate the shares and the likes. If you're watching this on a replay on YouTube, you can also subscribe and you will get notifications of future videos when I'm about to do them, when I'm doing them, as well as here on the Facebook site. If you can like a page and you can follow a page. And I don't know really what the difference is, except if you follow the page, then you get notifications of when I go live and things like that. So I recommend following my page so that you know when I put cool stuff up on my page. Okay, so the next card we're going to do, make sure I have all the stamps and dies. We're going to use the gingerbread dies. This is another great little suite. There's stamps, there's paper, there's a lot of products that can go together. It makes an adorable little suite of products. Tonight we're just going to use the dies, and then for my sentiment I'm going to use Magic is in the Air from Christmas to Remember. I really like this set because it's got a few different fonts, a few different messages, so I feel like it's very versatile to a lot of different holiday cards you might send out. Okay, so let me show you what we've got going on for this one. This one is fairly quick and easy. Here I've got some snowflakes here, and we're going to use, did I forget to get out? We're going to use our masks. These are our decorating masks, and this particular set is called Adorning Designs. And I'll show you the designs that come in this particular pack. We have 3 packs right now. I think there's 2 in the annual catalog and then 1 in the mini catalog. There's this one that makes snowflakes. And what I do is I mount mine on a piece of white cardstock just because then they don't get all caught up together as easily when I put them in the little envelope. So there's the snowflakes, there's these stripes. They look like candy cane stripes, but they really could be, you know, you could do these with any colors and have it any time of year. And then we have these little, kind of like little checks, I guess. Again, any time of year with different colors, it's just kind of fun. And then this one, I think it's supposed to kind of mimic gingerbread frosting, but again, use different colors and such and use it all year long. So there's a lot you can do. But tonight, we're going to use the snowflake one. So I'll keep that one out, put the rest of these away. Okay, get a drink before we get going. Oh, Eric got my dinner. Good. What am I eating tonight? Okay, So here's the card. Again, I did not do the inside. I don't know what was wrong with me that I did not do insides of cards. My brain must have gone on vacation. But I'm going to hold this up close. I don't know really if you can see it. I don't think you can. But I used our glimmery white cardstock or shimmer white cardstock. It's a little more expensive, but boy, it's really cool in person. It's just got a little bit of shimmer to it. It's almost like Wink of Stella and our basic white cardstock had a baby together. So it's really pretty, but it's very subtle, and I like that a lot. Oh, good, I'm having McDonald's tonight, just in case anybody was wondering. Okay, so for this one, I did have an envelope. I don't know if I have any extras. Let me see. Okay, I don't have extras, but what I did to decorate my envelope is exactly what I did to decorate the front of my card, and I am going to show you that. So think of your masks when you're using them as ways you can decorate your envelope. I could have also done that on the flap. The first step to this, I'm going to show you. I took some of our white shimmer ribbon, and I wanted it to be blue, and I wanted it to be a little bit darker blue. What I did, I'm going to show you how I did it. The reason I did it ahead of time is because it takes a while, because I used the ink pad, it takes a while for it to dry, and you want to kind of let it dry before you do a second layer to build up the layers of color. And I just felt like it would take too long if we did it on screen tonight. Plus, it would still be wet when I went to tie it, and then you end up with blue all over. I would end up with blue all over my fingers. Just so you know, when you're stamping and you get ink all over, lava soap works really well. I keep it in my bathroom, and it gets the ink off your hands really, really well. But anyway, what I did to color these is I took my Pacific Point ink pad. I'm going to do a little bit to show you what I did. And I just inked up my blending brush, and then I just brushed it along the end like that. Okay. I wonder if I should do the whole thing now, because I don't want it to be darker in one spot. I did, to give you an idea of how much this ink blends in, or not blends in, but like soaks into the ribbon so that it's not as dark as when you first put it on. What you're looking at here, this is the 4th layer of ink I've put on it. So it did take quite a bit to do it this way. My go-to way of I just looked at Talina's comment that said eating, and I almost said my way of eating this ribbon. My go-to way of coloring the ribbon is to use our blending brush, or our Stampin' Blends, because they're alcohol-based. They dry very quickly, and you don't have to worry about getting the ink all over your fingers. See, I already have some. But we don't have a blending Stampin' Blend marker in the Pacific Point ink, so I decided to do it this way. Like I said, it is a little messier, but that's just part of what you get into when you stamp, right? So the base of the card now is 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches. It's folded in half. I've scored it at 4 1/4. So there's our card base. Set that aside for now. I also have a piece of Coastal Cabana that is 4 inches by 5 1/4, and a piece of the shimmer white cardstock, or glitter white, I think it's shimmer white cardstock, that fits on there. It's just 1/8 of an inch smaller, so it's 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And then I also, using the shimmer white cardstock, I cut out one of the snowflakes from the gingerbread dies. I used this outer edge piece, and then using the Pacific Point, I cut out the little detailed snowflake right here, this one. So that's how the snowflakes work. You can do just one big one, you can do just the little one, or you can do both pieces. Now let's put those together. Why are you not going in the envelope like you belong? Get in there. Okay, So first thing I'm going to do, just to have it done, I think, is I'm going to go ahead and make my snowflake. All I did here, I've done this technique before. Get my silicone mat. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on here. Does not take a whole lot. It does take more than that. There we go. And a sponge dauber. After a while of doing this, sometimes these do get a little sticky and harder to work with. But you know, when you buy a set of them, a set of 5 is $5. So they're $1 a piece. And it does work for me for quite a while before it starts getting yucky. So the way I look at it is it gets its use for $1. If we end up throwing it away after a while, not a big deal. Now I just go ahead and I dab the glue all over this. It doesn't need a ton because just a little is going to give it enough to be sticky where it will stick on our background. Okay. I really like that silicone mat because when that glue dries, I can just roll it off with my fingers. Now I'm going to line this up on the background of the shimmer white cardstock. Thank you, Talina. Oh, and Talina pointed out the seasonal sale that I was talking about at the beginning with cardstock that is 10% off. The shimmery white cardstock is included in that sale. So this is a great time to get it because it is a little more expensive than our regular cardstock. Okay, now let's go ahead and put our little embellishments on our snowflake. At least I'm not calling it a starfish today. Okay. Where did my take your pick tool go? There it is. I ask like you guys know where it is. And I'm just taking a bunch of these little small rhinestones, and these are the Holiday Rhinestone Basic Jewels. And I think they must have come out in a holiday catalog or something to be called Holiday Rhinestone, because they're in our annual catalog, and quite honestly, I use them year round. This one feels funny. Did I get it? No, I got it on there. Okay. All right. Now I'm just putting these on the tips. Okay, that one has a funny shape. That one's like it was broken or something. I know, it was probably sitting there thinking, yeah, Heather, well, so are you. You're broken and I'm not throwing you away. Okay, so, oh, I forgot I didn't want one in the center there. Darn it. Darn it. Okay, so take that one off. The reason I didn't want that in the center is because that's where we're going to put our sentiment. So go ahead and do the sentiment now. I'm kind of doing this backwards from the way I don't know. It could be a starry night starfish. There you go. I love it. I love it, Robin. Okay, so I've got this little strip. This is also the shimmer white. I'm going to use actually for this one now, I'm going to use the Bermuda Bay. And I'm going to use the the sentiment that says magic is in the air. I'm going to stamp it up or ink it up here. Let's do a sample one. Okay, I'm doing this kind of right in the middle. You could really do it closer to the end if you prefer, if that's easier for you. Because we're going to trim a lot of that off. I just grabbed a scrap and that happened to be the length that it was. We're going to go ahead and make banner ends on that. Okay, now let's close this for the moment. And I'm just trimming this down so it's going to be about the length I want it. Then the easiest way to make banner ends is to cut it right down the middle. and then cut in from the corners. We do have a punch that does this as well. We have a couple punches that you can make banner edges if you're not as comfortable doing this. But I find on these really narrow pieces, this really is much easier. I think I forgot to cut down the middle on that one. That's okay. There. The other end is a little lopsided. But again, handmade. Okay, now I'm going to put a few dimensionals on here. Again, I'm going to use the mini dimensionals just because they're easier to work with on the small pieces like this. I think I really don't want them as close to the end though. Okay. And I'm just going to line it up right here in the center of my snowflake. Maybe. Okay. Boop. Now it's ready to put on the card when we're ready. Let's go ahead and put the dimensionals on it, so then that way that's all done. And these ones, I like the full-size dimensionals, the regular ones. One fits perfectly inside the little piece of snowflake right there. Again, you probably don't have to use as many as I do, but if it's worth doing in excess. I'm going to leave the backings on this for now, though, just so that it doesn't get stuck to something else while we are working on the rest of the card. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my shimmer white cardstock. I've got 3 ink pads I'm going to work with here. I've got my Pacific Point. Here, let's do this where everybody can see. Pacific Point, Pacific Point, Bermuda Bay, and Coastal Cabana. You know, I'm going to move these up, cover up my little thing right there so we can see everything as we go. Then I'm going to take my mask and I am going to put my paper in here. What I think I'm going to do, I did this the other night and it worked well. I'm just putting the tiniest little bit of adhesive on the back of it, and I'll show you why. By doing that, now it's going to hold it in place so it doesn't move all around the place. And I'm going to start by opening the pads. Always a good move when you want to use ink. And I'm going to use, I have 2 blending brushes I'm going to use. You don't have to have one for every single color. I try to kind of just stick in the same color-ish. So like I have one that I used for both my Coastal Cabana and my Bermuda Bay. And I think I ended up using it today on the ribbon. So I want to get some of that extra blue off. You can see just from what I did earlier how much ink stays on there that you can use over and over and over again. You can wash these in the sink with water, but do know they take a long time to dry. So like when I wash mine, some people don't wash them at all. They like to let the color build. When I do wash mine, I'll wash them like at the end of the night. So I'm not even using them for probably another 24 hours at least. Before I need them, so I don't have to worry about them still being wet. So I just stuck my hand in the ink pad. Okay. Baby wipes. They're not just for baby bottoms anymore. Okay. Okay, so I'm inking up this ink pad. And then a lot of times when you are using the blender brushes, you want to just kind of tap a little bit on the side to get rid of some of that extra blotchy ink that's on there, because you don't want to have, you want a smoother look to your brushing. And if you get that big blotch on there right off, it's hard to blend that out. So now what I'm doing is I'm going up. I'm not going all the way across the paper from left to right. I'm just going about halfway. And I'm just kind of doing this. I did find it was a little easier with this particular mask, because it's got so many little nooks and crannies. I did find that I needed a really light touch, or else it would pick up those little pieces. And sometimes I just did this where I rubbed it on there, just so that I didn't tear up my mask. Yeah, I'm getting ink all over again. Okay, so now I've got some blue on there. I'm going to close the blue ink pad because I'm done with it and I don't want to end up wearing it. And I'm going to move on now to the Bermuda Bay, because this is going to give me a little bit of a blended effect look as it goes from the blue to the Bermuda Bay to the Coastal Cabana. Okay. And this doesn't really take too terribly long. I mean, it feels a little slow as it probably feels slow as you're sitting here watching me thinking, come on, Heather, get on with it. But it doesn't take too long, and it's actually kind of relaxing too. And I am trying to make it a little darker at the bottom where it blends into the blue. And I want it to get a little lighter as it goes up, because then it'll blend into the Coastal Cabana. And all you need to do to clean these off afterwards, and you do want to clean them off, is take like a wet paper towel and wipe over them gently. I did find that I thought doing it with my baby wipes would work really well, but they're so fibrous and all the little fibers caught on all those little notches, and it just was kind of a pain. So I would use something like I said, a cheap paper towel would probably work really well. Or maybe a little washcloth or something that's just not going to pick up on that. But you still want to be very gentle with it, because a washcloth could pick up those little pieces and tear them. So just be careful. Okay, now we shall unveil and ooh and ah as I open this up. See how it blends from one color to the next. And you can do that as light or as dark as you want to do it. The next step is we're going to stick it onto the piece of Coastal Cabana. Sure all my margins are relatively the same in all directions. Now we're going to take the ribbon and tie it around And at this point, when I'm tying my bows, I don't really care where the bow is because once it's all tied, I can move it around and move the bow to wherever I want it. So I don't really focus on that part of it. There's enough other parts of the bow that try to give me fits that that's not something I need to worry about. Now I'm just going to play with it a little bit, adjust it. Okay, now what I was talking about moving it around is I'll take it like this, and I'm just sliding it because I want the bow to be up a little higher. I'll show you a little trick too. Let's tie off those tails. Okay. That one's a little wonky, I don't like that. Okay, now, see how it's kind of loose here and you want it to be, usually you want it to be a little tighter against your card. Well, the back of this isn't going to show at all because this is going to get stuck to our card base. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut it, then I'm going to take some tear and tape and I'm just going to tape this baby down, but I'm going to pull it tight the way I want it. Hey Tracy, how are you tonight? Okay, so there we go, and see now it's nice and tight there. And I have blue all over my hands. So I recommend, and I know it's not from the masking, this is from the ribbon. If you're going to do the ribbon, do it well in advance. If you're going to do it this way, do it well in advance to give it time to dry, and maybe even wear rubber gloves while you do it, or you don't, so you don't end up with the ink all over you. Or definitely invest in some lava soap. I just bought mine on Amazon. You know, like everything. You can buy everything on Amazon. Okay. Now let's go ahead and put this on our card. Watching for my margins there. It's a little wonky, but that's okay. Gonna tear off my backings for my dimensional. Oh, I forgot to put one in the middle. That's easy to fix. Okay. And let's see, I think I want it to be right about here. And there we go with our stamped envelope. Number 2. I've just started kind of playing with the masks. The leader of the larger group I belong to, the Love to Stamp group, she gave us a little class on using the masks and different ideas, and she had some great stuff. So I'm hoping to start using them a little more. So you're going to be seeing a few more projects with things you can do with the masks. Okay, the final card. This one is using our birch background stamp, and we're going to use the Stamparatus for that. I'm going to show you how that works. We're also using the Christmas season bundle here. There's the Christmas season stamps, and then the dies, the seasonal labels dies. Another die set that is a must-have because you have all of these planty things and really in the right colors. Some of these I think could be very springy. And then you have all these different labels. So I have gotten so much use out of this stamp set. Out of this die set. Okay, let's see here. First I'm going to show you how to do that background on the Stamparatus. You want to see the card? this is the card that we're making. I was very excited by this card. I was telling Talina about it because this is very much outside of my wheelhouse of what my style normally is. I have a hard time. I'm not a floral arranger by any stretch of the imagination. And so I have a hard time with making floral arrangements with my dies and such. So I was so tickled with how this turned out. And I definitely wanted to show it to you guys because if any of you feel the same way that I was feeling about, oh, I can't do that, I'm just not good at that, know that you're in good company. And I did it and I actually had fun with it and I was happy with how it turned out. So you can too. So let's go ahead and we've got a half a sheet of Sahara sand. It's 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. I'm thinking I might want to get another, well, I think it'll be okay. I was thinking I might want another piercing mat just so that I don't get blue everywhere, but I don't think it will off the paper. Okay, I also have a piece of cherry cobbler, which is 4 inches by 5 1/4, and a piece of our basic white that is 3 7/8. This one must be the smaller one. 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. This one I actually remembered to do it inside of the card. So this piece here is 4 1/4. I'm sorry, it's 4 by 5 1/4. I have some of this beautiful red ribbon that's got the gold in it. It's so rich looking, and a little of it goes such a long way just because it's so rich looking. Then I also had a bunch of these. Let me show you. This was one of the things that I did ahead of time because I knew it would take a long time for you guys to have to sit and watch. But I have some pine cones that I made. And, you know, when I went to make my original one, a lot of these were ones I had left over from another project. So when you have something that you've cut a lot of them out and not used them all, save them somewhere because you never know when you might use them for another project. And then you've already got them done and you don't have to redo them. Just to tell you what I did, these lighter green ones, I used the soft seafoam ink. The darker ones I used our Evening Evergreen. The pine cones are early espresso and crumb cake, and then also our, oh, hang on, what's it called? It is soft suede and crumb cake. And then for these little berry guys, I used the Evening Evergreen and our cherry cobbler. Then I have a little tag that I cut out of the Sahara sand, so we're gonna set these aside to add them to our card in a little bit. But first we're gonna put that birch background on this piece right here. This is my Stamparatus. What the Stamparatus does is it allows you to stamp something, and you know how sometimes you stamp an image and you don't get it really even and you think, gosh, I wish I could redo that, but you can't quite line the stamp up right. Well, this, what it does is the stamp is stuck to this little panel, and it has 2 panels, so you could have 2 of them set up, so that you stamp it, you lift it up and you go, oh, I kind of would like to redo that. You can redo it. It'll be in the exact same spot. So it's really useful, especially on these bigger stamps like this one. These magnets are great for holding the paper in place. They don't work real well when you're using the big stamp like this. Don't let your magnets bang together like I just did or they will break. Not a big deal. Now I have 3 magnets, but what I did with this, I also, on this one, put a tiny little bit of adhesive on the back. I put it where I wanted it, and I lined it up in this corner where the Stampin' Up! Logo is. You could put it wherever you so choose. What I do ahead of time is, I'm going to show you how I mounted this. I put my paper in there, then I got my stamp, and I figured out where I wanted the stamp to be. So I figured right about here would cover the whole piece. Then you bring this panel down, push, and now it's stuck to it just like your acrylic blocks. And I know it's going to end up stamping right where I want it to. Now the best way to ink these up, I'll show you. I'm working with limited space here, so it's a little difficult. First, I recommend putting an ink pad under it. It just makes it lay flat. It makes it easier to ink it up, to ink up the stamp when you need to. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, with these big stamps especially, it's so much easier to take the ink to the pad to ink it up. You have a little bit more control and you can see where you're getting ink and where you're missing ink. Then you just bring this down onto your piece of paper. You want to rub it firmly, get it everywhere. Now see, if I lifted this up, and I like how this turned out, but if I lifted it up and maybe say that area didn't get pressed down enough so it wasn't even, I could just re-ink it and do it again, and I know it's going to end up exactly where it was before. So that's how you use the Stamparatus. And then I'm just going to take a little baby wipe, clean that off. And then I use the baby wipe on this one because there's so much texture to it. So I'll use the baby wipe to get the bulk of the ink off of it. And then I'll use my Simply Chamois to get all the rest of it off. My chamois is what I usually use to clean my stamps. See, I got most of it there just doing that. But I can go in now with my chamois if I want and get just a little bit more in those grooves, a little more detail if I need to. It looked like it was fine, but just to show you that that's typically what I do. Now I'm going to set this aside. I'll put my magnets back on. Okay. I did end up putting my birch on sideways on this one. Yesterday, or the other day when I was making this card, I did the birch this way because that's the way birch is on a tree. And I was planning on my wreath going that way, but then as I got going, I decided to make it that way. So now it just kind of looks more like a regular tree pattern than birch. That's okay. Okay, now let's go ahead and find all my other pieces here. I'm going to go ahead and mount this onto my cherry cobbler because it does have a little bit of sticky on it from when I stuck it to the Stamparatus. This way it doesn't stick to other things that I don't want it sticking to. Oh my goodness. I think I stamped on the wrong one. That's okay. I'll just trim this down a little bit. Hang on. Okay. Doo-doo. And that, my friends, is the segment of our show that we call Heather is Human. Okay, so just trimmed that back down. Now my inside piece is going to be a tiny bit smaller than I normally would have had it, but that's not a big deal. Okay, let's go ahead and glue this. Well, let's wait to put it onto our card. But let's work on the inside of our card. Now what I did on the inside is I just took a few of the stamps that I used for the dies that I made. And let's see here. I want to use my Evening Evergreen ink, my cherry cobbler, and my soft sea foam. Start with the soft sea foam. There we go. There's that first one. what I'm trying to do is mimic a little bit on the inside of what I'm going to do on the front, just to tie it all together and to give the card a little interest on the inside. Okay, and then let's get these little berries in there. I wonder if that's going to look weird. Well, we're going to find out if it looks weird. So I also need the little berry stamp. And line it up this way. There. It's not lined up perfectly, but you get the colors, you get the idea. There is DSP that goes with this whole set, so you could actually even just put a little bit of DSP on the inside if you didn't want to do that. To decorate your envelope, you could do this on the front of your envelope. You could do it along the back. You could even use the coordinating DSP on the envelope flap. So there's a lot of options there of what you could do. But like I said, we're going to have to fire that assistant. Well, it's Tammy that said we're going to have to fire that assistant of mine for not ordering envelopes. It's almost like she doesn't even exist. Okay. Oh, yay! Talina says I sold her on the birch stamp. I love the background stamps, the big background stamps like this. They just make me happy. I don't know why. Okay, clean off my stamps there. Okay, now let's mount this into the inside of our card. Oops, and there we have it. Folks, that was the last of that tape runner. And we have a new one on the way. Oh, sometimes when they're new, they, until they get going, sometimes they're a little finicky. There we go. Okay, now put this inside of our card. Throw the card around a little bit. There. So now we have the inside of our card done. Now we're going to work on making that wreath. So what I did is I just kind of laid them out first to figure out, you know, the basic shape that I wanted them and how I wanted them to look. Some people are able to just lay it out and then they go, okay, now I'm just going to pick up this one and put the adhesive under it, and they basically leave it in its shape as they go. I can't do that. So what I did is I just, like I said, laid it out, got an idea of what I wanted, and then tried to recreate what I had just done. Now when making wreaths like this, one little tip I'll give you is don't just lay it flat, you know, adhesive flat. What I do is I take my glue dots and I put a glue dot at one end, and then I put a mini dimensional at the other end, so it lifts up this end of it. And I'll do them all that way. And then when it's done, you may find places that you want to add a little bit more lift, and so you'll add more dimensionals at that point. But this is a great way to start as you're laying it all out. So we'll start with that guy there. Oh, you got to take the backing off the dimensional. Okay, and then just starting to kind of piece things together. I don't like to have the stem show. I'm just kind of weird that way. If you don't care, then don't worry about it. I like to hide them under the one before it. And don't be afraid to trim off the edges of your stems too to make it fit in a little further if that's what you need to do. Okay. Okay, let's see, what else have we got here? Okay, we'll do another one like that. Okay. I think I want that out a little bit more. Oops. The other thing too is dimensionals tend to be a little less forgiving. Once you really push them into place, they don't want to come off. So when you lay this down at first, don't push too hard because that'll give you a little bit of wiggle room if you need to move it. I'm going to trim this one because I didn't like where it was showing in the back there. And a dimensional. Now you'll notice that I'm lifting up a lot to place pieces under other pieces, and that's why I don't put a whole lot of adhesive on it when I stick it down. Like I said, you can always go back and add more, but it's kind of a pain if you need to lift it up to hide something under it and it's stuck down already. Trim that guy a little bit. Trying to hurry because I know you don't want to spend all night watching this. Okay. Okay, let's see here. So earlier today, Tammy was talking about tonight, how the Masked Singer is on tonight. Tammy, are you still on here? Oh, Talina, that's very sweet. She said this is why her downline is her trainer. She is my upline, I am her downline, so that's what she was saying. Anyway, earlier today, Tammy was doing a live that I was watching, and one of the other people on our team was watching it, but he was saying it needed to be done in time for him to watch The Masked Singer tonight because he's on the East Coast. And you know, I love it because by the time I'm done, usually it's just about time for the Masked Singer to start, so then I can watch it while I, you know, get everything posted to YouTube and get all my stuff finished out. Anybody else here watch The Masked Singer? It's the weirdest show, and it's like when you try to explain it to somebody who's never watched it, they really don't get the appeal. And to be honest, I don't know that I can explain what the appeal is if you haven't watched it. But it's a lot of fun. Okay, let's see here. Tracy loves that show. I do too. They crack me up. Get off of me. Okay, so for now, we're gonna leave that like this. And I know it's not perfectly round, but the nice thing is we're gonna cover some of that up. Actually, let's put our pine cones on first. So I only have a dark little one, so I'm gonna do a lighter big one because I wanted the two different colors of pine cones there. And let me see, I did use dimensionals on the pine cones. You know, Robin, you make a very good point. She said that people love that show because it's a secret, and everybody loves a secret. Yeah. Well, you know, when I first started watching it, I was watching it, I started streaming old seasons of it. Like I just started watching it live last season. So I watched all these old seasons. It was a big, huge shock to my system to have to wait, you know, weeks on end to figure out who won. Okay, so there's one. There's my little one. And for this guy, I think I just want this particular pack of dimensionals is kind of crazy. They're not all weird like this, but this one is giving me fits. Okay. So there's our little pine cones. Maybe put a glue dot under there. Another use for my take your pick tool, I just lift that little glue dot off. I can slide it under there. There we go. Maybe put a little mini dimensional there. Well, let's wait and see. Okay, so now let's put our little red in. This is where we're going to start to touch it up to add little pieces that we think we might need. Let's see, so add a little red right there. With a little teeny tiny baby dimensional. And I have one more of the little berries that I want to put on the other side. Okay, this one's a little tricky because they tend to flow a little this direction, which doesn't go with the flow of the wreath. So you kind of got to be careful. And that's why I'm trimming off the edge there. It gives me just a little more wiggle room to put it in however I want it. Oh, thank you, Robin. That's really sweet. I haven't really tried any samplers. I'm not sure what I would do with them once they're done. I don't see myself hanging them on my walls. So, but I see some and they look great. Okay, now let's go ahead and this is where I'm going to add extra dimensionals if I feel like it needs it. For the sake of time, I don't think I'm going to do a whole lot of them though tonight. I can always go back and add them, but these extra pieces that are just kind of flopping, I would put more dimensionals under there just to keep them from being loose and catching on things. Then the next step here is I'm going to take my Wink of Stella, and with my Wink of Stella, I colored in my berries. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Wink of Stella, it is an alcohol mixture of some sort that has sparklies in it. And then when you color with it, it just gives a really subtle shimmer to everything. And I'll show you when I'm done here, because sometimes if I show it up close, you can see it on the screen. And I'm not doing anything really precise. I'm just coloring it in, and I'm just doing the pine cones and the berries. Let's see if you can see that on the screen or not. Oh. Yeah, you can see a little bit of the shimmer there. When I turn an angle, you can see it on the berries. So anyway, it just adds that little bit of shimmer. Then I'm going to go ahead at this point and we're going to put in our sentiment. I need the cherry cobbler ink back out and our sentiment stamp. For this one, I just used the word Merry, and it is also from the Christmas to Remember stamp set that I used earlier. And I just stamped it kind of toward the end here. There we go. It's a little crooked, but oh well. And get some adhesive on the back of this. And I just wanted it sticking out here. Make sure that's straight. Okay, now we're going to tie our little bow. Let's go ahead and mount this onto the card front first. I thought about putting some like red rhinestones or something on here, but I just thought I liked how subtle the shimmer was from the Wink of Stella, and you get quite a bit of shimmer from this ribbon that I just felt like putting some jewels on would be a little too much. Oh, gift giving is a good idea for the samplers. Now I'm just going to fiddle with my bow for whatever amount of time it takes, I guess, to get it to shape the way I want it shaped. Okay, now I'm going to trim the tails. Okay, and I'm going to use a glue dot. The glue dots are really a nice strong adhesive, so they work very well for gluing bows on. I just want to put it right there. Got some of those extra little shiny pieces from the ribbon on there. And there we have it. What do you guys think? And like I said, I would have done something like this on the front of the envelope as well if my assistant had taken care of getting the envelopes like she should have. For those of you who missed it at the beginning, I don't have an assistant. That's part of the problem. I am my assistant, and I forgot to order envelopes. So let's take a look here at the 3 cards we created tonight. Move some of this stuff out of the way. As I knock stuff to the floor. Okay, so we made this card and this card, and we made the trees. There we go. That's what we have tonight. I hope you guys liked those. Like I said, if you liked what you saw tonight, please share this video, like the video. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to get notification of future videos that I do, or follow me on my Facebook page. That also gives you the notice when I'm going to be going on live. because I love to share with you guys. This is probably the most fun part of my job. And so I really enjoy being able to do this with you guys. If you would like to order any of the supplies that I use tonight to make any of these cards, please do go to my website. I would love to earn your business. It's just heathersides.stampinup.net. If your order's under $150, please use this host code. This is what allows me to have gifts and such for my customers, as well as being able to restock on things like cardstock and such so that I can make these videos for you. If your order's over $150, don't use the host code because you're going to get the freebies there, and I want to make sure that you get them. You've earned them. So remember, our big sale is going on through tomorrow, where you can get 10% off cardstock, 15% off of ink, and 20% off of dyes. So it's a great time to take advantage of stocking up on those things. So if you have any questions, be sure to put them in the chat here, and I will check them and be sure to get back to you. You can message me at any time, and I would love to be able to share my business with you later. Have a great night. I'll see you guys all next week.